$20 fucking for this.
Just a minute, I've got something to say. You should hear it. Oh, I'm happy to make time.
Hey, my name is Thomas and today I'll take you on a tour through Cologne with a 1960s camera icon.
Let's just break it down to you and me uptown, dancing all around till the disco ball pops. But I have to be me, and everyone can see your anger is misplaced, and I'm gonna tell you, don't hate me 'cause I get attention.
Yeah, so if I say it's a camera legend, most people will first think of Leica, then a Nikon F, then maybe Hasselblad and Rolleiflex. These are maybe the four most successful and the most famous cameras ever. But so this is a Pentax. How does it fit in in this part? Actually, this thing is the most sold camera of the 1960s when it comes to SLR cameras.
Come on.
Pentax were the first one to introduce the so-called swing-back mirror in 1957. And they were the first ones who did a mass production camera with built-in light meter. That was cutting-edge technology in 1964. It was called the Pentax Spotmatic, and this one's called Pentax SP1000, but it is basically a Spotmatic. They sold 4 million cameras until 1976, so they by far outsold Canon and Nikon together.
Your anger is misplaced, and I'm gonna tell you, don't hate me 'cause I get attention. Don't turn me into what I'm not. I have to be me 24/7, and I ain't never gonna stop. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Never gonna stop.
Okay, when you buy an analog camera, you have to check certain things, but it's very simple because there is not a lot that can go wrong. Basically, you want to know if the aperture works, the automatic aperture, and you want to know if your shutter works. So for the aperture test, you just put it on f16 or f22, and 1/1000th of a second, or the shortest time that you've got, you open the thing and you fire the shutter, and you can see with your eye if the aperture has closed. So then you know it works. And you also can check the slowest aperture speed by firing the shutter and looking from various angles if you can still see the hole from the lens where the light comes through. The second test is for the long speed. So around 60 or 30th of a second, the long there is a mechanism that kicks in for the long times, and so you do just an audio test. 8 sounds good, 1/4 of a second sounds good, 1/2 of a second sounds good, 1 second sounds good. Yeah, that's the function test. $20 fucking for this. Okay. Normally it's fairly straightforward. You go like this, maybe put it on a shorter time, and then there's a slit more. There's a slit that this kicks in, lock. Okay, first try didn't work. In the old days we used to do this in 10 seconds. Now it works. See? close it, advance. You take 2 blank exposures. You see that this rotates. Now you're ready to shoot. Yeah, this is our famous cathedral, the 3rd tallest in the world. And it took 600 years to finish it, you know that. Basically because it was left in a half unfinished state for 600 years. And then the Prussian government in the 19th century, I believe, stepped in and said, hey, Cologne guys, you really have to finish that thing. And then they did, finally. Okay, so there were different models made of the Pentax Spotmatic series, but actually they are pretty similar. This one's called the SP1000. It's a more basic model. It doesn't have the surf timer, which is a lever around here. The original one was just called a Spotmatic. And then there later were some other variations like a Spotmatic 2 and a Spotmatic F. They added open aperture metering, but from today's point of view it's not really an important feature, I'd guess. And also the newer versions have a built-in hot shoe for flash usage, but again maybe not that important if you want to pick up one today. Later the camera was changed to a bayonet mount, the famous Pentax K mount, and it was called the K1000. So basically all these cameras are very, very similar. They all have the same mechanical shutter and a very sturdy, reliable mechanics. Just pick what you want. In my opinion, it's still worth to pick up a screw mount one because they are plentiful, 4 million sold. So it means you still have a great choice today and they're not very expensive. Yeah, so as you see, very straightforward to operate. You got your shutter speed dial. You lift this thing to adjust the ISO. You even have a reminder for what sort of film you're using. This one counts your exposures. Yeah, and this is the button to activate light meter. It's a stop-down meter, so it means that also when you stop down, the image gets darker inside. And this is the screw mount, very simple. It's got this one pin, and here's the thing, so that the aperture stops down during exposure. 2 flash connectors, and on the bottom there you put in a very small battery. I'm using the battery of a hearing aid. They are the cheapest, and they work very well with this camera. The problem with this is now we've got a 1.7 lens, but you still can't use it for bokeh shots. And why is that? Yeah, because the camera maxes out at 1,000th of a second shutter speed, and when the sun shines you end up at f4 or 5.6 even. You would need an ND filter, but in the 1960s you didn't have that. So yeah, people didn't think of bokeh back then. They just wanted to get a good shot. Now we're going to cross the Hohenzollern Bridge. It's the one bridge in Europe with the most trains on it, the most train traffic. And on the other side there will be a very iconic view of the cathedral and the bridge that you maybe have already seen in many, many photos. Yeah, this is the famous Cologne Love Bridge, and given the fact that I live here since almost 20 years, I should know more about it really, but I just know it was a normal bridge and then someone put a lock on it, and then some more people did it, and all of a sudden it was like this, and now it's sort of a tourist attraction. World famous. Yeah, and behind me that's maybe the #1 photo spot for all the tourists who come to Cologne, because from there you have a view over that Hohenzollern Bridge and the cathedral. So yeah, you've maybe seen that shot many times, and if you want to have another take on it, then this is the spot to be. Let's take a shot there. When people think about, what is the essence of an iconic, easy-to-use camera, most people would say the Leica, but maybe not so much, because Leicas have two problems. The one problem is you cannot really use a telephoto lens, because the viewfinder image, the part of that you can use, gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and the rangefinder doesn't work so well. And the second is close focus. I mean, this is a standard 50mm lens, and it focuses down to just below 0.5 meters. And that's really useful. You see some nice flowers or anything, any detail, and you want to get close. You can't do it with a Leica. They stop at 0.7 or even at 1 meter. So there's a lot going for these single lens reflex cameras, in my opinion. Maybe it's just me, but I think it's a really beautiful camera. Basically, it sat in my shelf for over 10 years and I never used it, but now that I finally picked it up, I realize how clean and how simple the design is. I think Pentax should really come back to designing cameras like this. Their current contraptions, such as the K1, they are so big and they are cluttered with buttons and weird stuff going on. And then they just put something shaped like a pentaprism cover on top of it and call it a Pentax. But hey, this is the real deal. This is the pure design. This is almost like, you know, a Leica or something. It's pure and simplistic. Pentax should think about that again. One little fun fact, this is a Pentax camera with a Rikenon lens, so a mismatch when I bought it, but right now, today it is a match because Pentax and Ricoh, they are one company now, right? One last thing I really want to point out again is the quality of this thing, the craftsmanship. It's very, very good. The way how the dials operate or the shutter operates, it just oozes high quality. I've seen many cameras that are also very good tools, but they just don't work that smoothly as this does. So it's a really high quality camera. Okay, now it says 35 here, so maybe I've got only one picture left. That's the unique feeling when you shoot film, you know, your film is full. Let's just break it down to you and me uptown. Oh, I'm getting yet another shot, even though I'm on 36 already. What a surprise. By the way, nice thing about these cameras is they work fully manually, so there is a tiny battery in it, but it's only for the light meter. So if you come across one where the light meter doesn't work or you don't have a battery that fits, you can still use the camera. Just use your iPhone. There are many apps for it to do the light metering for you.